This is a ceramic Stardew Valley slime, and as soon as I made him, he reminded me of something else. I'm going to draw it for you and see if you can guess what he is. Any ideas? Welcome to part 1 of making a ceramic anglerfish. So, to start, we're going to need a clay sphere. Due to the current length of my nails, I would pinch straight through a pot if I tried to pinch pot it, so I'm going to be using this little half sphere mold. I just push down this little plunger and then cut the excess off, take the piece out, and then slip and score them together when I have both halves. This step is super important to keeping your two halves together, so you always want to make sure to take your time here and do a really good job. Now, once I have the two halves together, it's just a bunch of smoothing it out to disguise those lines as much as possible from the two halves being separate. Once it was nice and smooth, I used my fingers to kind of get it into a nice little pear shape, like you can see here. And then I mapped out where I wanted the mouth and eyes to go tomorrow. Because yes, it's time for this guy to dry out very slowly overnight, just a little bit to leather hard, so that way I can cut his mouth out and give him his fins. So, see you tomorrow. Is that clay or polymer clay? This is actually ceramic clay, so welcome back to part 2 of making a ceramic anglerfish. I started by getting the pectoral fins cut out, and then attaching them one at a time. You have to work quite quickly when you're working with clay this thin because it does dry out super fast. So got the little detail lines put on those as well. Then it was time to cut out the mouth and smooth it all out so that way it was nice and clean and beautiful. Then it was time for the dorsal fin. So I did work on this one quite a long time, but I'm really happy with how that shape turned out. Next up was her little lighted lure. So of course I made a ceramic paper star for that, and then worked with some high fire wire for the actual antenna of the lure. Got her teeth put in, small for extra cute. And with that, I would say that the clay is finished. So here she is. And if you're wondering why it's a girl, the boys don't have lights. Fun fact. I'll have more fun anglerfish facts for you tomorrow during glazing. See you then. Bye! It's been 2 days, but our anglerfish is finally ready to meet her parasitic boyfriend. Welcome back to part 3 of making a ceramic anglerfish. So to start, I just grabbed all of the underglazes that I was going to be needing, which is pretty much every blue I have and black and white. So I started by painting her lure and her eyes white, and then it was time for the inside of her mouth, which I'm just using this blue that becomes almost black. Now I have to be super careful when I do this to not knock her little teeth out, but then it was time for her body, which I'm using this medium blue that's this color, and just getting that all over. As you guys know, for underglaze, we need 3 coats of each and every color to get it to completely opaque, so I started laying those blues on. Did y'all hear that? Now, why did her lure just pop right out? Luckily, that made it super easy to glaze her for the rest of the time, and I'll just stick it back in at the end. But use that same dark blue from her mouth to do her eyes, and then got her little teeth whitened, took her to the dentist, got her looking all cute. And then after I did that, I just finished up that second layer of glaze. So now it's time to start working on her tiny parasitic boyfriends. And yes, I mean tiny. In some species, the females can be up to 60 times larger than the males and weigh 500,000 times more than the males. Are you ready to see what the silly little guys look like? Yep, that's it. So they're teeny tiny, and the ocean is very dark, which means that they just swim around and smell for the female. Once they find one, they bite onto her stomach and then never let go. So much so that some of the males fuse with the females in certain species, and they just sit there until it's time to fertilize her eggs, and that's it, forever. So because she's going to be stuck with her mate forever, I went ahead and made her 4 males so that way she can choose her favorite to be stuck with for life. Got all of the finishing details and layers put on these guys, and then once everyone was done, it was time to go in the kiln. But first, let's take a look at how cute they are. I'm so excited about how they're coming out. And then I ran them outside to the kiln and put them inside, got that started, and tomorrow we will move on to glazing. Did you know anglerfish don't actually produce light? Welcome back to part 4 of making a ceramic anglerfish. So yesterday we glazed our little anglerfish girlie and her 4 short king boyfriends. And while I did make her 4 boyfriends so she had some choice, she actually can choose all 4 because in nature, some anglerfish have been found to have up to 6 mates attached to them, which is insane. But before the new season of Anglerfish Bachelorette can start, it's glaze day, so I started by pouring all of this Pepto-Bismol in her mouth. I'm just kidding, it's clear glaze, and then rolling her around to get it nice and coated so that way her mouth is nice and glossy, and then poured out the excess. Then I dipped her lure in glaze just to get it nice and coated and started glazing her. Just like with underglaze, clear coat needs 3 coats, so paint 1 coat on at a time, let it dry in between, and we'll have a glossy fish. Now, why did I say at the beginning that anglerfish don't produce light? I mean, that's one of their most iconic features. Well, anglerfish actually borrow their light from bioluminescent bacteria or photobacterium. So we really have in anglerfish her glowy little friends and then her 4 possible mates. I got those 4 possible mates loaded up into this little bead rack that I made and put in the kiln so that way they can be fully glazed without touching the shelf, and then got her loaded up. So tomorrow when she comes out of the kiln, it will be time to add her bioluminescent friends to her lure. I have 2 options, this blue, which is a ceramic glaze that will add 1 day to our series, or this green, which is an acrylic paint. Either way works. I do think the blue looks very bioluminescent, but let me know which one y'all want, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Last night we put our anglerfish and her 4 boyfriends in the kiln, and today it's finally time for her to collect her bioluminescence. Welcome back to part 5 of making a ceramic anglerfish. Now, as you can see, the kilning went beautifully, everybody's looking bright and shiny, and here she is. I'm so happy with the combination of fin color and body color, but as you can see, her eyes did bleed a little bit into the whites, which is totally fine. There's her boyfriends. I'll just use a white regular glaze to clean that up. That's the thing about ceramics, not everything always goes as planned, but it's finally time for her to meet her bioluminescent friends, and for that we are going to be using this ceramic glaze that is glow in the dark. So it's going to need 3 coats, just like almost everything in ceramics. So now we know where our anglerfish is getting her bioluminescence from, but scientists don't know where wild anglerfish get their bioluminescence from. They've tested eggs, they've tested babies, neither of them have the bacteria. They believe that the mothers actually share the bioluminescence with their female children, or they collect it from the water column, probably both. Just another deep sea mystery, I guess. So once she was all coated up with her glow in the dark, I ran her outside to the kiln, and y'all, I have something fun for you today. So I started this kiln pretty early in the day, which means that I have cool footage to show y'all. So if you ever wondered just how hot a kiln is, look at how bright the heat is. There's no light in a kiln. That light you're seeing is just heat. So, yep, if you're still here, I have a sneak peek for you. So I've had a lot of requests to make a certain star-shaped creature. Yes, of course, a starfish. Clay process was a lot of fun for these, and I think that they're going to turn out really well. They are shakers, so they will be lovely to hold in hand and make a nice sound as well. I piped on all of these little details, so they're also going to feel incredible, which is awesome. But tomorrow we'll have results on our anglerfish and her bioluminescent friends, so see y'all then. 36 hours ago, we put our anglerfish in the fiery furnace to collect her bioluminescence. Welcome back to part 6 of making a ceramic anglerfish. So as you can see, she did survive, but her star lure is looking a little less star-like. So I have a plan, don't worry, but first, look where I found her boyfriends. She was eating them again. The plan was simple. I would take this Dremel and carve away some of that excess glaze and get it back to star-shaped. I used this bear as a test. It worked great, so I did that and then left her out in the sun to dry. Now, one thing we need is the dark, because glow in the dark, right? So while I was waiting for that to happen, I started working on a ceramic sand dollar. I want to make a nice plump sand dollar, something that I can make into a shaker. So I use this half sphere mold to create a half sphere, and then I would use that as the base of my sand dollar. I slipped and scored it to this flat piece, and then I originally put some balls on the inside. I say originally because I realized the sand dollar teeth are one of the most iconic parts of a sand dollar. So I actually opened it back up, took the balls out of the sand dollar, and made some little stars to go inside as the sand dollar teeth. If everything goes well, obviously a person would never see the teeth inside, but it's just a fun little thing. Now, I do plan to make this sand dollar nice and fluffy, but just as I was finishing this up, I realized it was getting dark, which means it's time for our anglerfish, so I put the sand dollar in a bag to dry slowly, and then loaded my bisque fire for tonight, and here she is. So as you can see, star's looking great, and are y'all ready? So there we have it, an anglerfish, her 4 boyfriends, and her lure full of bioluminescent friends.